Hey everyone. Hello. Hope everyone is having a great Saturday. And I'd like to welcome you all to the Overcoming Book Club discussion. My name is Shaquana. I also go by the Sage Dragon on YouTube. And I'm kicking off this book club to go over Michelle Obama's latest book, Overcoming a Workbook. Just a little bit about me. I am an avid reader. I love arts and literature, and I'm going to be kicking off a lot of different topics about great books that I'm reading. But I thought with everything going on, um, this book is a timely book. So I'm cordially inviting you all. Some of you may be watching for the future because this is something that I just birthed a couple of weeks ago. So I've been spreading the word to family and friends, and please continue to share and like and subscribe. But a lot of people may come on maybe a week or so, which is fine because we're recording and we'll upload it. But I thought this was a great tool to help us with our emotional well being. So, this is going to be a 10-week online discussion. I'm going to go live on Saturdays at 11, starting today up and through when we complete it. So, this book is it's like a supplement to Michelle Obama's book called The Light We Carry. And that's the second book she wrote. Some of you may know that she wrote a book. Her first book was Becoming. It was excellent. It was a national bestseller. And then she came out with The Light We Carry a couple of years ago. And that was a more biography, but also tools for she's sharing more around her emotional well-being journey, and how these last couple of years and everything that's transpired in the world has impacted her, and how she builds resilience. So the workbook, what's nice about this is it's like a journal where there's writing prompts and different interactive activities. So I have so many women and men that I love that are family, we're kind of spread out. My daughter's away in college. My mom lives down south. I have aunts and uncles and cousins that are friends that are in different cities. So I thought that if we got together, if we read the book, did the journal prompts, we could come together and discuss it. And it could be a way to help us with our all emotional well-being, but also bond some online. So join me in the future. I would recommend getting the book. If you can, find an indie store near you or an online Black owned or indigenous owned bookstore, and there's a lot of them popping up in different places, and purchase the book. It is available on Amazon as well, and you can get it that way. So let's get into. So the book has 6 topics. So each week I'm going to talk about a topic, and this is some real rich discussion that I think we can have around these topics. So I'll probably have each episode dedicated. I may dedicate 2 episodes per topic. The topics are small power. That's what we're going to talk about today. In the future, there's comfortably afraid, source code, showing up, the kids are all right, and going high. And that we're all familiar with the going high message that Michelle Obama gave. But now we're going to talk about small power. And I really want to make this interactive. So if there's anyone out there listening on YouTube or wherever in the future, put it in the chat. So, small power, focusing on things we have control over that may seem small and insignificant, but make a difference. When I was reading The Light We Carry, Michelle was talking about COVID and when it first happened and how it was impacting her emotionally. And she started knitting, and she found that there was so many things she couldn't control. There was so much anxiety building in her that doing the smaller things, taking the smallest steps were helpful. So that is a lot of what this first topic is about. So when you get your book, you'll notice that she'll provide a description of it and then get into some prompts like, when have you noticed recently that you feel calm, grounded, or confident? And what were you doing when you felt that way? Um, because focusing on small steps can build our confidence. So I did some research in this area and found that completing small steps, we tend to focus on the big stuff in life. We want to make mega changes across the board. But when we do small steps, it does bring a sense of psychological satisfaction because when we complete something, it makes us feel better and more whole. I wanted to share a story that what has been one of my small steps that has really impacted me. I used meals and meal planning over the last couple of years as a daily small power. So during the COVID years, meal planning, preparation, and cooking was a way to do something every day that could add some routine during a time when routines were all over the place. And I was also concerned about health, like many of us. And I was worried about, in the early days, I lost some family members and close loved ones to COVID. So I started really being more intentional about closely planning meals. And I was also witnessing the damage that COVID had, especially on like younger people, our adolescents and our teen groups, and like younger adults. And there was all sorts of accounts of increases in opioid use and deaths by suicide, especially within that group. There's so much you can't control, but I looked at daily meal planning and preparation as a way to build resilience. What I didn't realize at the time that I was doing something called tending and befriending. Um, so, tending and befriending is a survival response. We hear a lot about flight or fight, and we don't hear as much about tending and befriending, but it is another survival strategy. The first time that I heard it, I was listening to a podcast by that was a woman named Dr. Joy DeGruy. She has done a lot of work around post-traumatic slave disorder, and had this really great discussion on this podcast called The Man Enough, and it is on YouTube if you're interested in checking it out. The episode was called Access to Respect. And they were talking about respect, and Joy was talking about how women tend to have built resilience because we tend and befriend. So I said, Then I heard it in another instance. So I did some research, and it's refers to the instinct to look after younger, vulnerable children during a stressful moment. The concept is rooted in the idea that people, especially women, tend to connect during hardship. In other words, we go towards instead of against when life gets hard. We also deeply look after our offspring to ensure their survival. So that makes a lot of sense because I've seen um, in my own life and my mom's and different people that I know, especially women, where when times are hard, we just want to like circle around the vulnerable and circle around the children, but we also connect with one another. This is actually a great survival strategy. This is something that I think our society should normalize more, especially during these times. So I wanted to stop, kind of do a chat prompt and say, what are some ways that anyone tends to befriend? So anyone want to share any stories about tending and befriending? Deja, you said that is true. You really think about starting small. Yes, starting small is it's the way to go.
I think that can you hear me?
Yes.
I think that whenever I'm in a new space, um oh no.
You still there?
Oh yes. I got bumped out. I think that whenever I'm in a new space, um I tend to I think that's something that happens with me, especially when I'm in a space that um doesn't have many other black girls in it. It tends to make like us like kind of panic and go straight towards each other because we're the ones who are like automatically outnumbered, and that's something that can make you like really uncomfortable right away. So I think in situations like that where like maybe you're the only girl, or maybe you're the only black girl, or the only like person to do something for the first time, um, you kind of like hope that there's another person just like you in that situation, and then you tend to kind of like stick with them, and that's kind of what like forms friendships a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like I remember like me and my friend Sydney from dance, we ended up becoming such good friends because we were only two black girls in our company. It was
Hmm.
just us two, and um, I think there's a certain level of discomfort when there's only two of you in one space, with
Hmm.
majority other people that you're surrounded by. And so I think we like kind of took comfort in both of us like being there, at least one other person being there, and that's
Hmm.
why we ended up kind of becoming like best friends in that situation. So um, I don't know. I feel like that's those are situations when I tend to do that.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's a healthy, from what I was learning about what it does to us physiologically and with our hormones and cortisol levels. It's a healthier response than flight or fight. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to elevate it more because we do, even when we look at our cultural expressions, whether it's our music and art, film, our political theatrics, the flight or fight is heavy. Those examples are out there constantly. The tending and befriending, not as much, but as we think about the society that's been created with these extremes and wealth gaps and polarizations of every different group, we're really going to need more of the tending and befriending. We also have our children that are in need of that. So I think we should continue to like think about that topic, read about it, and we're doing it anyway. That's another thing. A lot of us, like I said, this is what your go-to, like you was mentioning, Dej. But when you're doing something and you become intentional about it, it makes it even more of a powerful thing. So I wanted to get back to the whole meal planning. So I was doing this meal planning and preparation. And then in 2021, for 6 months, I was an Instacart shopper. And I learned a lot during that period. I was shopping for others. And it was another small power because when I looked at the gig as a service versus a way to make extra money, I realized that reframing calmed my nerves. I would be in the grocery store and could literally feel a difference in the store with my anxiety shifting when I reframed this as a service than just trying to get through the orders to help someone, to make money. So when you're realizing that you're of a service to someone else, and it really became clear because, especially with um, when I got orders for the elderly, I remember one time one of my clients was a breast cancer patient, and they were really in a lot of pain. So they needed help not only with the shopping, but bringing the groceries into their apartment and unloading it. I felt a sense of accomplishment. It's a small act. It's a small act of service, but I felt better. I even enjoyed my food better. During that time, I shopped differently during the period that a couple of months that I was doing the Instacart shopping. I would work and make the money and use the money to buy the meal. It made it different for me than just blindly buying food because I really slowed down to understand the cost of a meal. I started shopping daily for the meals, and it was something that we can talk about in other discussions because I have some books on eating and food and the politics behind that. But that small act connected things for me. The other thing was I felt soothed by filling up my cart, knowing I was helping to reduce the burden of someone else. People, whether it was transportation, mobility, time, or sickness. And it wasn't about judging other food choices. We're all on a journey with our dietary practices. So even if I was putting, I don't drink cow's milk, but if I was putting milk in the cart or butter or cookies and cakes, I knew that it was providing sustenance. It might not have been the best nutrition for people, but it was helping them. And that small power was helping me during a time that was challenging for me. Um, the last thing that I'll say about the small power with when it comes to meal planning is I'm putting this out there. I'm interested in becoming more involved with meal planning activities that are more community oriented and having the opportunity to contribute my small power skills in meal planning to reduce hunger and undernourishment. I read this book last year that was great called The Protest Kitchen, and it was talking about the connection between what we eat and politics and different industries within the food industry, agriculture, dairy, and how we can be more political. But there was a point that the author made that I really found interesting, which was there was a period, I think it might have been around the 50s, where people were interested in a notion of like more community kitchens and cafes. And in other parts of the world, they have these set up where people can share in the burden of the cost of food, meal planning, and preparation. So again, we have very rising costs in food. The president just mentioned that it is what it is, which we probably, some of us who were paying attention knew that you probably it wasn't going to go backwards. Could this be a solution? Could we bring back things like potlucks and small gatherings? Um, my family, we live in Rochester, New York, and we lived about 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, we lived in a neighborhood called Neighborhood of the Arts. And they had this cool thing they did on Saturdays. It was called Bagel Saturdays. It started in the spring, not the winter, but we would meet at a park and bring bagels and orange juice and dishes and cups, and we would gather.
Nice.
And it was at a playground so the children could play, the adults could talk and interact. So I think that instituting those types of things in any of the communities that we're in, at finding spaces, maybe non for profit organizations or places that are willing to host for a small fee, and then maybe if the weather is warmer, doing it outdoors in the parks. But instituting these potlucks and gatherings again, where we share in meal planning, it could be a powerful way to combine small power with activism. Uh, Another one that I'm going to mention, and this is um, a different way of thinking of things, but I found laundry. Doing laundry is another small power. And I was on a website called the Transformation Care Network. This site is about helping people with different mental abilities and differently abled individuals. But they said, and I have found this to be true, doing laundry for self or others can be therapeutic for the mind. And it's because it's a repetitive task and it requires little mental energy, which allows you to switch off and focus on the task. But the other thing is, there is something especially beneficial when you're dealing with anxiety, of the warm clothes and the smell of the fresh laundry. Has anyone found that um, to be true? That, or not?
Yes, I agree. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I would say so. I like it. It's very, very comforting. Like I even remember like when I went to visit my aunt and like as soon as I got to the house, she just had like a warm blanket that she had just taken out the dryer and she was like, I know you've been outside and you've been cold. So I put this blanket in the dryer and I just took it out. And literally we had like a long conversation and the whole time I was sitting there and I was just focused on the fact that I had this like massive comforter that was like heated in front of me. So that was really nice.
Yeah, no, that's great. I remember years ago I had a friend named Helen. She was actually my grandmother's friend and my mother's friend, and she was at our house and she was doing laundry. I noticed whenever she would take the clothes out of the dryer, she would like just push it against her hands, and like she felt better doing it. That was kind of one of the first times that I thought of it, because once again, these are activities like food and laundry that seem mundane, and they can get like that, but she showed me that it was something soothing out of it. But I want to get to a message that I just saw. Sheila from Twitter asks, which ways do you feel the tending and befriending in Michelle Obama's message can work today? All my friends are just crashing out over the Trump changes. Yes, I feel you, Sheila. And you know, actually, she Michelle Obama didn't mention tending and befriending. What I've done with this book is I'm taking each topic and like stretching it out and adding some more conversational, color to it. So when I think about small power, I think that we have power. Um, Even though that individual thinks that he's a king and he runs the world, but he doesn't. We, especially as Black Americans, if you think about our history, we have really endured. And this book is called Overcome. Oh, it's okay. You didn't have the chance to read the book yet. This is a kickoff. So we're just starting we're going to be back next week and the week after next. So, and we're going to be talking about small power again next week. So, if you have a chance to read the book, fine. Also, you don't have to read the book, which is why I'm going over the topics. The reason why I'm recommending it is because it's like a journal. So, it's in response to how we can deal with the crashing out, taking care of self. This is a self care book. It's not about politics or any of that. It's about self, softness, and we deserve that. I mean, we've really have been pushed, and it is stressful. I really understand, which is why I kicked this book club off. I want us to have something for our own emotional well-being. Yeah, for us to deal with these stresses and anxieties and have a safe space to address it. Next week, the week after next, rather, because next week we'll continue to talk about small power. And then the week after that, Sheila, you may be interested in the topic comfortably afraid, because I think that gets to what you're asking about. How do we navigate during a time of fear? And Michelle Obama had said in her book, The Light We Carry, she deals with fear and she lives with it, and what one thing I remember her talking about in the book is that fear is a natural part of life, anxiety. In some ways, it helps us, it keeps us on our toes. If we're anxious about things, maybe it's because it's something we need to address in our life. We might be putting off something, procrastinating, or just not going facing something head on and going through it. So there are comfortable, we got to kind of get comfortable with fear to an extent while we're alive, because we're animals. I mean, animals that live in the wild, they have fear, but they also can overcome it, and we can overcome it as well. So there's healthy versions, and then if it gets too extreme, it can paralyze us. And that's why we need to build up our tools. So journaling, exercising, tending and befriending, which means finding support within one another, but also caring for other people, caring for self. Those are the positive things. I also would recommend we turn off the news. We don't have to listen to every single minute. And that death doom scroll that we do, that it's been studied that it impacts us psychologically, and it also messes with our cortisol levels. So for our own well-being, just coming away from the negativity of the times. We don't have to engage in all of that individual's his tyranny and his friends and what they're trying to do. And as we get more into the book topics, there are ways we can come together as a people to overcome. We've done it before. We've created civil rights, and we pushed up against, we had policies. We created whole towns and communities and cities. So we don't have to feel like this person is going to be our downfall and our doom. And I'm not going to allow it. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to launch Overcoming. So hopefully that helps. Um, I also think that small power allows for soft living. And, the last couple of years, especially a lot of our like younger generation have embraced that concept of soft living. I know me and my daughter have talked about how we like to see us having living soft. And there are different ways to do it. Some of the content can get a little bit on the materialistic end, but we deserve nice things and the ability to have great experiences, whether it's traveling, eating at great establishments, having, nice quality clothing and so forth. But, there's different ways to live soft. It can also be having a hobby, having leisure, just slowing down and living with intention. So, having a quality of life in a highly consumer driven culture. So, I also want to put that out there too, that maybe we create, and even if we're not creating the content, we're just living softly through small power, going back to volunteering or calling someone, checking on them, are all different things that we can do to enhance our quality of life through soft living. So I'm going to stop and see. Yeah. So, so in summary, accessing. Hold on a moment. Oh yeah. So I'll just before I summarize, I'm going to go through a few more small power actions. Preparing healthy, tasty meals. I keep focusing on the food because it's nourishing us. Two, of all groups, I think we deserve to really focus on our health because it's been under attack for so long. But maybe doing things like dropping a sandwich to a neighbor, going for a walk, taking time to floss, scheduling an overdue health screening. I just got a couple of months ago, I did a biometric health screening and I'm going to get my teeth checked and cleaned next week. So it can get overwhelming, but just maybe taking one screening if you're overdue for whether it's a mammogram or colonoscopy or a teeth cleaning, just scheduling it. Now, if the scheduling it is is too big, break it down because that's the small power. It might be that you need to get health insurance. So maybe getting the health insurance is even still big. Maybe you need to just do research on where you get health insurance. So you see where I'm going with it, which is the small steps that we take, you feel better. I probably people could talk about it in the chats, and that if there's something that you have to do, and you take a step towards it, you usually get a sense of satisfaction. But what I'll encourage is that it's those micro behaviors that daily build up to the bigger things in our life. Think about how quick a year goes by. So if you think, oh, it's just nothing by me doing 5 minutes of walking or tackling this one area of clutter in my home or whatever that small step is, maybe it's a relationship that you want to rekindle, and you took the small step of writing the person or sending the text, and then now it's leading to maybe a phone call or writing them a letter, and then maybe that's leading to meeting in person or FaceTiming them. And then a year from now, you may have a great relationship rekindled that has filled a void in your life. So let's just start small and let that be a very empowering thing. Decluttering, but no more than 30 minutes a day. Different, I'm in well-being as a profession, and clutter and is an area that where we help to help people with by giving them financial resources. But what I've heard professionals say is no more than 15 or 30 minutes, because again, it's not small if you're trying to declutter your whole house or your garage in a day. So just not things that is not going to burn us out. And then writing a list of long-term goals. If you get the workbook, you'll see that there is a lot around what your goals are. And I actually think it's really I've kept the jacket on, but it's really lovely, and it's only about $10. to purchase. In summary, accessing our small power can move us forward, break procrastination, help us reframe in helpful ways, can help us through these tumultuous times where we're feeling a lot of anxiety. Um, and building relationships can help with that. Small steps lead to big changes over time, and we should personalize our small power and find ways to make it habitual. So, a lot of what I was talking about with the meal planning, laundry, tending, and befriending, those were ways that I personalized it. And next week, when we come back, I'm going to ask some more of you to share what ways you are personalizing your small power. And I'd love to hear about it. Let's see. Deja. Baking. Yep. Making cakes for everyone's birthday, which is, yeah, great. Um, so, so before we go, I'm going to share a poem that summarizes, or I think really love nicely embodies this message of small power. And it's called The Room of Ancient Keys. It's by Elena Mikakova. My grandmother once gave me a tip. In difficult times, you move forward in small steps. Do what you have to do, but little by little. Don't think about the future or what may happen tomorrow. Wash the dishes, remove the dust, write a letter, make a soup. You see, you're advancing step by step. Take a step and stop. Rest a little. Praise yourself. Take another step, then another. You won't notice, but your steps will grow more and more. And the time will come when you can think about the future without crying. And that appeared on April 24th, 2020, on the Facebook page, Midwives of the Soul. I thought that was a great poem. So that's the end of our first discussion of small power. Like I said, we'll talk some more next week. I'm expecting more participants, and I hope you think about the week and how you're going to activate that small power. And we'll be back to continue having this conversation of overcoming. Thank you.
That was really nice, Mom.
You like it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.